performance now that we have projects that are coming offline. We're rounding into year 3, so we've got a lot of cool, great results of CR2C2 projects that are being presented every other month, and then the odd months or even months, however you count them, we're having external speakers. And today is one of those external speakers. I'm really proud to have Dave Muyres here. The full bio and everything was sent out as part of the package. What I want to say is, me recruiting Dave, and I've met Dave through some other groups and looking at new transportation and that sort of thing. And anybody that's worked with me knows I really harp and push on the idea of interdisciplinary work and that sort of thing. And so what's cool about bringing Dave to this, and you can piece this out and pull this together from his bio, but he's got a background, started in architecture, mechanical engineering, moved off into vehicle design, worked with Johnson Controls on a global basis in the automotive industry, spent time in Detroit, Germany, and Japan, the automotive capitals, working on all sorts of lead design projects. And having spent this time, in sort of the core of the automotive industry, eventually he comes to the point to say, hey, look, it's not just about cars, it's actually about mobility and moving people around. And so in the way that I like to see things, this is all a big interdisciplinary thing. It's about moving people and things, places, it's social impacts, it's economic impacts, and all different things. And so now what Dave has done is sort of backed away from solely the automotive side of it, and looking at mobility as a larger enterprise, particularly a human-centered enterprise. And so particularly for the students and the young researchers in the room, one of the things that I'm trying to do with this is bring new perspectives to these seminars, right? We can talk about results and research papers and that's research projects all the time, and we're going to do that. And we have lots of good work to share, both produced with CR2C2 and externally. But I wanted to go a bit out on a limb with this one and have everybody maybe challenge some thoughts about what we could think about the future in terms of future mobility. And that's why Dave is here representing a nonprofit entitled Mobility Futures Alliance. And he's going to tell you a bit about its mission, how he got here, and I'm going to stop talking. So, Dave.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully I'm just able to provide a different perspective on the future of transportation, future mobility, things to think about, things that I think about from my perspective. Hopefully it's also valuable to you. This picture right here, before I start and explain myself and why I'm here, whatever, at times it's very important to worry about every single detail and make sure that all the way down to where that stripe is in the right place and detailed and correct, whatever. But if you're doing that on a road that doesn't matter, it doesn't matter how accurate that is. So I'm going to talk a bit more from a bigger picture, like where the road should be, why people are going on the road, because otherwise you're going to be working on a highway to nowhere, and you did a really good job, but it didn't help it. So anyway, keep that in mind. I'll bring that back up later on. So I will explain myself. I'm going to talk about improving lives through better transportation. Of course, you can improve the metrics of transportation, 0 to 60 times, and energy consumption and all that kind of on the transportation side, but also the transportation itself and the system can also improve lives or hurt lives. Obviously, it'll help you get to where you need to go. That's the whole purpose of transportation. Do I need to get to healthcare? Do I need to get a job? So it can enable a lot of improvements in quality of life, as well as the systems itself. And we are trying to do both in our mission. A lot other people try to do both as well, but that's a big focus of what Mobility Futures Alliance does. I'll explain that here in just a minute. The agenda is more or less straightforward, but I'll explain myself. I'll explain Mobility Futures. I'll talk about a few current projects. I'll give an example of what we're trying to do, because we are new, so we're just starting. So I don't have 20 years of proven examples of implementing this, that, and whatever, but that's what we're going to do. So just quickly my background, I'll shorten this because Stephen just explained it, but I started out in engineering, I went to Rensselaer, and I'm like, okay, this is great, but I want to design the complete car, not just parts of cars. So I transferred from Rensselaer, upstate, or in New York, out to California, and I got my degree in industrial design, focused on transportation design, which essentially at that school is car design. And 50% of all of the world's chief designers graduated from that one school. So the former head of Ford, Honda, Tesla, et cetera, they're all from this one little school. So it's a great little place to go out and influence lots of the auto industry. I myself now like the vision strategy challenges, design innovation challenges, leadership, getting stuff done through people, hiring, starting teams, growing that and having influence. And I'm now kind of a generalist after having kind of business leadership roles, people leadership roles, both design side creative and engineering side creative. These are different companies. I split my time between a few nonprofits, academia, arts and ecology design in California. I started another school, New North Center, designed to teach business leaders about the value of design and creative process, how to leverage that in their business. So started New North. I still currently teach at the College for Creative Studies, which is the #1 rival to where I went to school, but that one's based in Detroit. They also have graduated a lot of designers that, like the head of Stellantis, every Stellantis brand guy from TCS. My current job, passion time is split between my passion job, which is what I'm going to talk about today, Mobility Futures Alliance, and my day job, StreetScope, which Stephen arranged a time for me to talk about this afternoon. StreetScope has developed the ability to objectively evaluate how safe anything moves. It's a bunch of guys from aerospace that came out of Caltech and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory that does system integration, system engineering and risk mitigation for all of NASA's deep space missions. And we've created the ability to, actually I should switch it to this. This is it. StreetScope Traffic Safety Intelligence, the ability to evaluate movement. The output goes to insurance to price risk better, infrastructure planning to identify high hazard areas along the route, vehicle development companies, or right now, real popular customer is all the autonomous trucking companies that need to validate that their big autonomous truck is actually safe development and at deployment and beyond. Anyway, that's my I only show this because it was another passion project, but the size of what we want to do, which is create an all-new vision for transportation in America and help re-energize the U.S. transportation industry to be a global leader. I don't know that it's a global leader now, but I personally would like it to be. This is a project where a year before we started, received a letter from an Army, I think a captain at the time, Army captain in Camp Anaconda, north of Baghdad, during the Iraq War. He wanted to be entertained, just like the USO. You know what the USO is? But anyway, he wanted to bring over my race car, entertain the guys on the flight line. And 1 year later, with the help of a few other people, we were able to get $1 million from all the car companies. All the cars from Ford, GM, and Chrysler equally were donated. And then we went and got permission from the military to actually do it. Went to the Pentagon, talked to CENTCOM, went over to Kuwait, got all kind of lined up. And then we delivered the program. This is just 1 year after we started. And we entertained the military and taught safe driving because there's a huge issue with deployed military coming back and having a high rate of motor vehicle accidents when they come back. Somehow there's been a thread of cars and safety through all my fun things. But anyway, that's what this was. And it was difficult, but I think the challenge we're going to do with Mobility Futures Alliance to create a new vision, excite people, make change happen faster, is also a big, audacious task. But myself and our team is up for that. Also, just to put perspective in how I'm talking, we're at the beginning of our journey. We have a lot of very talented people. I'll show you who some of those people are, who are to create these new visions to accelerate change. When I was in school, I went over to visit an illustrator who is also going through the program. And there were just paintings all over the place, little stuff, little prompts that you do to get ready before you do the big painting. And this guy was just prolific. And I kind of tiptoed through there all over. And I stepped on one. I'm like, oh. And I flipped it over. And it was this. And I said, could I have it? And and he's like, oh, yeah, I got tons of that stuff. I got them all over. So I took it home. And then like 2-3 years later, I seen this movie come out called Jurassic Park. And he created like the first image of, at the time, all he knew was there's a bunch of dinosaurs got loose on Catalina Island. If you've been to LA, that's the island off of LA. And it turned out to be that. That was the iconic beginning image of what became a very successful movie. Maybe Jurassic Park's too old. Maybe I don't know if you guys have seen it all.
It's a wrong car.
What?
It's a wrong car. It was a Mercedes SUV from the industry. It was a black.
Yeah. So how this stuff works is at this time they don't know who's the sponsor or supplier. So for it's just the director trying to come up with
It
stuff.
looks like a Jeep. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know which one that was. But anyway, so anyway, that's the stage that we're at. We have super talented people who can envision a future, build excitement, and now we are going to go out and work with a bunch of people like you, a bunch of smart people in the transportation world to make sure that whatever visions we create are actually grounded properly. So when they get launched, there's a business model behind it, there's technology behind it, there's public policy behind it, and so forth. But anyway, I share that, and I still keep that in my office. Is probably worth a bunch. So, Mobility Futures Alliance, our vision is to improve lives through better transportation, improve both the benefit to people as well as the actual transportation itself. Our mission is to redefine mobility systems to achieve economic prosperity, social benefiting the people, and a net zero impact on as a result of whatever transportation systems are put in place. That's our mission, and we're going to use storytelling and exciting visions of the future to help motivate change, accelerate change to happen faster. So, mobilize hearts and minds through storytelling. We believe that the best way to create change is to inspire action. It's in the storytelling space, especially in the Hollywood stuff that friends do. You can make very inspirational stuff, but then to convert it into an implemented transportation system or some big change or something where there's a business model behind it takes action. Otherwise, the change is just a dream. We want to do a lot more than just that. So our belief is we are going to use our storytelling abilities to provide leadership and direction and push to go in better directions as a result of transportation. You've seen the power of storytelling, so some of this could all be, I gotta try this clicker. Okay, good. So obviously you've seen the speech, heard the speech of the whole race to the moon and Kennedy's speech at the beginning, and then mobilizing massive forces across many places in the US to get to the moon first from a very powerful story that he gave, or a speech he gave. This next thing is an example of storytelling out of TV and movies and so forth. The West Wing you guys know the West Wing? Yeah, okay. So during the time that the West Wing was on, the number of people that wanted to go into public service and governmental roles like doubled or tripled during that time because people got to see it. That's interesting. That could be my career. So they had a significant increase. The producer of the West Wing, the first 5 years, is another one of our team members, Lou Wells. He's on our team. And interestingly, his brother was responsible for ER. And the same thing happened for the medical industry. The significant increase during the years of ER for people saying, hey, that's what I want to go do. Let me go do that instead of whatever. So anyway, the power of that type of storytelling, you've all seen it in, sorry, it's not Mercedes. Brand, you have the ultimate driving machine. You have this image of what BMW wants in their brand. Obviously, you see that in Apple. And you also obviously see it, especially nowadays, in politics, telling stories about what it could be, what should be, and whatever. It's an extremely powerful tool. Have you guys all seen, how do I get rid of that? Oh, it's being recorded.
If you click OK, it'll go away.
Oh, I didn't want it to go away. Oh, sorry.
Record, I didn't touch anything.
I get pushed to tell it to do something and then it's delayed, so then I push it too much. You know how that works. Oh, I gotta go. I'm sorry. But I want you to see this movie I have here. Okay. So you guys all know about Futurama, heard of not the TV show, but the original 1939 World's Fair Futurama. That's what this is. At the time, GM, inspired by a previous thing done by Shell, created a giant pavilion to show the future of cars, of their world and what they thought it would be better for people. This, you can see it's massive. It was the #1 attraction of the World's Fair. It became that in the beginning. And it painted a picture of, you know, life in I'll push it too fast. So you may have seen images from here. There's often certain iconic images associated with, like, the first autonomous image of a vehicle. It didn't actually work, but they would show it. So they built a diorama model, because they didn't have digital video and stuff. They built a diorama model with 500,000 buildings. It was massive. And then cars, 50,000 cars. Some of them moved around. They even had like airplanes, you know, all just mechanical stuff, landing and stuff. But 30 million people went through that. And that inspired a lot of excitement. You're like, wow, I want that. And that led to the 1956 highway bill. And that funded, so it inspired a lot of consumers, a lot of people that vote. And then politicians probably like, hey, this is what my people want. Well, we should do some of that. There was also a big economic benefit. There's also a military benefit. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in there too, all worked into that, and it drove the 56 highway bill. So what I'm excited about is this design-led initiative, this view of the future, drove that change. And for a long time, it was a really good thing for the US. I mean, the highways were built and jobs and all this stuff, and it was great for many years. But today, you know, almost 100 years later, we're not going to solve our future transportation needs by just more lanes and more cars. We're going to run out of space. Other countries, especially in dense urban environments in many parts of Asia, they've already figured that out. They need other stuff because you can't just give everybody a car. There's no room. So anyway, and so this is kind of one of our inspirations. This was the 405 out in LA. We need something new, and that's part of what we want to help. Our group wants to help create. So to do that, we want to foster cross sector systems thinking. Not that the car industry was simple or easy, but it was a device. People owned it, put liquid energy in it, drove around and stuff. But the future will still have some of that. But all these other complicated systems, ride-sharing systems, business models, all this kind of stuff needs to be figured out. We don't pretend. Every time I say we, it's the Mobility Futures Alliance, our little group, doesn't pretend to be the smartest on every single topic we need to. So we will be fostering a lot of cross-sector interaction, thought exchange, to help inform what we do and also help motivate others to think differently. Just some of the sections, you know, micromobility, transit, energy, autonomous, urban planning, there's more of them. You know, how can the best of what's available in all of those help form new transportation systems? We will organize a lot of cross-industry exchange conference events so that not only can we get smarter, but other sectors that maybe don't talk as much to each other are talking more to each other to help figure out how this is going to work. Let me try this again. And just as an example of two of those, you know, transit infrastructure, you know, traditional bus, however it's powered with autonomous technology. Is there a new way to think how they might work together, overlap, provide, you know, mobility benefits to people? Looking at what that overlap space is. Are there new systems? This is one of the ways it's being like swarming buses. So like bus mindedness autonomous mindedness, maybe smaller units that can work together some parts of the time, and then when they need to spread out to go get to more locations than just any kind of route-based transit system. That's not necessarily the answer. Not everybody is as smart as you guys when I go to talk to transportation people. So I got to provide some examples of what are you thinking about? So leverage mobility as a force for change. By providing new systems, there's a lot of change and benefit to people, and we want to try to figure out how transportation can enable better, lifestyles in rural communities or areas that don't have as good a transportation but need better, so that their people can get to jobs or veterans can get to the VA, wherever that is. However, whatever benefits as a result of also having better technology in the transportation. We want to leverage that. Three major areas of impact as a result of transportation. And many of you probably know a lot of what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it from my point of view anyway. So obviously, society, people benefit or impact. The business, obviously, economy. 40% of all liquid energy, or 40% of all energy is used to move stuff. 60% is to move people, but most people think about it's the people part, but it's both. And then obviously, there's an impact on. There's a physical impact. There's environmental impact. There's whatever as a result of how things move around. So there's a lot of consequences to obviously the 40,000 deaths and so forth, but there's a lot of impact on health and so forth that people are currently dealing with that could be better. It doesn't have to be 40,000. It could be 20,000, then 10, then keep down to as we leverage autonomous technology, whatever. There's a huge inefficiencies of getting stuck in traffic and so forth. A lot of areas that are also going to benefit, improve, and obviously you are aware of the environmental impacts. So we've developed these categories of areas that we will then try to either create projects around or integrate within our thinking to prioritize what we do and how we do it. Within safety, health, and community building, economy, productivity, policy, and affordability, so that just more people can use it than today. And then obviously the environmental impacts that we would like to mitigate or reduce over time. And this is probably aware if you guys are studying parts of transportation. Transportation touches pretty much everything you do, and without it, you don't get to have fun. Another one of our areas is going to be I'll talk about, but making our society safer, healthier, more vibrant as a result of better forms of transportation being made available to everybody, and see how that all gets embodied. So, who's our audience? Mobility innovators. So, lots of corporate technology, research, trade organizations that are already thinking, looking smart about transportation. We want to work with those. So they are one of our target audiences. We're a nonprofit. We're early in our journey. Every nonprofit's constantly got to go out and find and raise funds to go do what they want to do and bring their mission into reality. So a bit of some of the wording in this is around me going to find people to partner with or fund what we're doing. As a nonprofit, you got to go talk to a whole bunch of foundations, and they have their social-minded thing to decide where they're going to fund their money, because it's often individuals that are taking this. So we got to go talk to foundations and the general public, because we can create highly visual versions of the future to help motivate people, to help take the fear out of it, to help basically make people want that more than what they have today, which is a big part of accelerating change. And depending on your definition or theory of change, if you don't want it, you're going to avoid it as long as possible, which means change takes forever. But if you like it, you don't fear it, the chance of it happening sooner, faster, and generally faster to a better future is always better. So our process, upfront, research, films and experiences, and demonstration projects. Research is probably obvious. we will do our version of research, but it'll be heavily involved and partnered with other organizations that do this all the time or have specialties in certain areas. We will partner with a lot of people in how we do our research, probably adding a lot of, because we come from the design world, understanding the consumer use cases, interface experiences, we'll probably tie in a lot of that to a lot of the more traditional research. Films and experiences, we will create a story out of the research we do with whichever community or location we are working with. And then visualize that. I have an example of one that we've done. I will share that. But another important part of what we want to do is, as I said earlier, not just create the story, walk away, and go to the next story. We want to actually start working with people, and I'll show 2 projects and locations that we're doing it, so that as we help inspire change and motivate, bring interest into this community or this area, we are already starting to plan how to launch it, how to do a demonstration project, how to do a proof of concept in that space is also part of what our deliverable is, not just movies and film. The actual progress towards real change is part of what we want to do. If I didn't explain it here, so those demonstration projects, these films and experiences, our goal, it also is a goal or incentive to many of the partners that we're going to work with, is like the original New York World's Fair, we are targeting to take the best stories and experiences and so forth that we create and have a giant pavilion at the LA 20 Olympics. Because it'll be a big international audience, just like the World's Fair. LA has a whole bunch of transportation issues. They seem to be motivated to want to fix them, so they want to partner and engage. Anyway, they want to be part of the solution. So that's what we're gearing up towards. That'll be the beginning of 2030 is the next World's Fair. There'll be other things after that, but for us, kind of our big bogey on the wall is to have some type of pavilion to be able to tell our first round of stories and invite experiences and interaction. And part of our process also, we will, and that's what motivated me is I don't know if I explained, but my, one of the things that motivated me was that convening event where I met all these incredibly significant people from the CIA to Schwarzenegger's office, the head of the CIA, Schwarzenegger's office, a whole array of people. Because we brought them together, we talked differently about the future. And these people that would normally not engage with the little design school out in Pasadena were intrigued by the influence that the school had. And so that's what motivated me to want to do more of this and help leverage, I say the power of design, but the power of the creative process to help motivate change. This event that I organized, after the second year, I got asked to testify before Congress in 2008 when GM and Chrysler were going out of business. They wanted a different opinion from an independent organization. So I was able, and I'm realizing testifying in Washington that this power of what we have, visualizing, telling future stories, could have a lot more impact than just styling the next Corvette. That's easy to do, but styling or creating an inspirational form of transportation that doesn't involve having to personally own a vehicle, have a garage, pay all that expensive insurance and parking, all that stuff. There's alternatives that could be just as cool. And I want to use the power of design to make these other things just as cool. So, because I was inspired by these convening events, we're definitely going to have a bunch of convening events to bring different types of people together to talk about the future. So these are some examples of, not examples, these are the projects we are starting. We'll probably do 8 to 10 of these by the time the Olympics come around, if we're lucky, if we get funded, but that's our goal. One is urban mobility challenges that we would like to address. We found willing and receptive partners in Leimert Park in downtown LA, kind of in the center of LA, that has sometimes happen probably in many big cities, but they get overlooked. They're not shiny and sexy, and they don't get all the, but they need better transportation so they can get to jobs, just a bunch of other benefits. So This is one target area that we're going to look at in Leimert Park in a dense urban environment. The other project is in Hillsdale, Michigan, which you have Detroit, Grand Rapids. It's kind of center south, kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's definitely a very rural city. The people we're partnering with, Phoenix Mobility Rising. So it's very typical rural community. So if we can get something to happen here that becomes kind of a model, there's 50 other cities in similar situations that could benefit by having this kind of model to enhance their. This one works with University of Minnesota. Or no, University of Minnesota was the original big sponsor. Also, University of Michigan, Umtree, part of Umtree is part of it involved. And we will do. This group is going to do phase 1, so the immediate help to that community, and we will do a phase 2 and a phase 3. It's like, what's the long-term vision for how to improve mobility in the space? Because that's what we're really good at, and so we'll partner with them, and we'll create all of that together. This is a project we started with Dr. Yachi Ma, who runs the UCLA Center of Excellence out in LA. So when anybody comes up with an idea or a future vision for an idea, how good is that actually? Is it, how much, is there an energy, environmental, time savings, economic, all these things how do you quantify that when you just create a film? So we're working with him to try to find some way to quantify the future value of ideas in some way that is done by, his level of organization, or like you guys, to actually provide some kind of quantified benefit, not just a emotion. So we're trying to figure out what that's going to be. And then this is one that I'm hoping to do here with Stephen. But like all these community events I mentioned earlier, you guys have a lot of experience. I don't know all the coalitions you're part of, but I know that's a priority thing within your group. We would like to maybe participate, have some type of interactive workshop session. We could help orchestrate. We love doing that, but you guys provide. Well, somehow we partner on that. That's my goal, to figure out what that could be. And so now, how am I on time? Okay. So I'm near the end. So this is an example of what we're going to do. This is, if you've done movies or, this is more for movies. At a very early stage, when some kind of concept writer writes something up for a script, they will do a pre-viz. They will do a digital version of what's in the script. So you don't have actors yet. You don't have all the expense, but you can visualize what the story is based on the script. That's what we have. We worked with a similar production house that does many of the Marvel movies. If you've seen Minority Report, or you've seen Batmobile, Tron, all those kind of things. The designer of all those kind of, another friend of mine, he did all the assets in this film for us. So this is an example, but it's prior to doing the proper research, because we just made everything up ourselves. But it's an example of the type of thing we would like to create. This is all digital. Eventually we'll have, green screen and live actors and all that kind of stuff. But so I'm going to share this. And I have a full screen version of it. I'm hoping audio is also.
Me too. Wanted to come.
Here, let me try it.
So Dad will pick you up after soccer.
We cannot hear you. We lost audio on the cyber side.
All right, sorry. Yeah, I think you need to turn this.
So, for the cyberspace, I was informed that this video only will be 1 or 2 minutes, and after that, hopefully, we're gonna be back to speaker. This is just to manage the situation. Sorry for the issue.
Is the screen cut off for other people? I can't see the bottom or the side of the presentation.
I can see the presentation, but there's no sound.
Yeah, it's been cut off the whole time. I was going to send a chat, but the chat was disabled before I had the chance to put it in there.
Yes, we've been trying to manage that on the back end, but since we're so close to Q&A, I believe this video was only supposed to be less than 2 minutes. So we're just gonna try to bear through it and give you guys the opportunity to ask your questions.
If you change the view to side by side, you can see the whole thing.
Mine is side by side and I still can't see the whole thing.
Bear with us with a few more minutes.
Then I'll be essentially. There, now can you hear me?
We do.
Okay, all right, then I'm almost done. I want to explain the team. This is the first 16 advisors that we have, some from Hollywood, some from founders of the US Green Building Council, others from different car companies, Autonomous, the Ford family, Kyle's part of this. I want to explain all those. The former head of Rocky Mountain Institute is our chairman. I want to explain ourselves. I've done that already. So our focus will be to mobilize hearts and minds through storytelling, foster cross-sector systems thinking, and leverage mobility as a force for change. We believe the need is now and significant, and so that's why we're motivated to do this. And lastly, this relates to the very first image I shared where somebody was painting that line, and they were really worried about that line being perfect. The problem, it was on a road that nobody's using, and so things have changed. That road is no longer whatever it was necessary. This is a personal story on why I'm so motivated. About 10 years ago, a friend of mine who's the chief designer for McLaren, previously chief designer for Ferrari, and he designed the Mini, if you've seen those around here. He wanted to debut his new car at my school as a North American debut for his McLaren. Of course, I'm going to say yes, but at the time, I'm like, this is a great opportunity to get my son excited about cars, like my world. He was, I don't know, 10 maybe at the time. So I brought him along, introduced him to all these people. It was a big deal. Jay Leno, a bunch of other celebrities were there for this debut of this car. And so I brought him, he got to see all this. And then when the cover comes off of the car and the press take all their pictures, you know, I'm a car person, so I'm all into that. I'm like, oh, I wonder if my kid is, if my son is. So I look down, and this is him. He could care less about the new car. The stuff I was motivated by. This world, this future generation, they're motivated by different things. That will include transportation. And so even though you guys, well, you're mostly all younger than me, but think about the people you're actually designing for, what they need, what motivates them, what would be better for them, because that's what you're actually creating new transportation systems for, not just yourself, but for all these other people. And this is my story to think differently about how I approach design and creating solutions and so forth. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave, and apologies to everybody online. I mean, everybody in this room knows that if there's a technical glitch that could happen, if I'm in the room, it's going to happen. So I'll own that. Anybody who's interested, we can put you in touch with Dave. I'm sure we can get access to the video. But I think even the images told the story that or conveyed what Dave was trying to do with the story. And that was the purpose of this, right? So I got young researchers in this room. I know online, I know the CR2C2 community, everything from grad students, postdocs, young, untenured faculty and all that. We're here, we're doing the work, we're doing the research, and particularly in the current day and age, our research is only as valuable as its impact, right? I mean, our world is measured in papers and dollars we bring in, but we're here to make a difference and make transportation better. And the reason I wanted to bring Dave in and show this from his perspective is that this sort of thing is how we create impact with our work. I mean, if you look at, again, I'm speaking to the online community and all that. I mean, you saw Jai-Chi Ma in the Center for the New Mobility Automated Center of Excellence. You saw Kyle Shelton and University of Minnesota. I know Ali. I know that he's been to North Carolina A&T. We know that he's a big advocate player in rural transportation. So we're already seeing members of the academic communities, our peers. They're engaging with Dave. They get it. They get it with this idea of storytelling. One of my biggest roles here at the Alabama Transportation Institute is make sure that the good work that, as Dave says, these smart people in this room are doing, that we get it out there in front of the people who need it. We get it out in front of the people who need it because they need it. And at the end of the day, we're still academics. We get it out in front of the people who fund transportation research. Let's just be honest. We will always be in that game of funded transportation research. But we will continue to get funding. We will continue to be successful. We will continue to recruit high caliber students and faculty if we are showing impact in the work we're doing. And we've got to be able to convey that. So Dave, thank you for this. This is exactly what I was looking for. And we will open the floor to questions. I got to figure out how the chat thing is working because it shows disabled on my end. If I can't find the chat functionality, Ali or Chris, it's so weird to talk to some disembodied person, but Ali or Christina, if I can't figure out the chat and there are questions in the chat, can somebody help me with that? But first I'll see, are there any questions or comments in the room? Somebody cough if you can hear me online.
We can hear you, and the chat has been disabled. Re-enabled, sorry, enabled.
Wait, it's re-enabled, okay. Let's see, so I got, all right, I've got some, sharing some positive vibes, but any questions from the online audience? Any questions from the in-person three-dimensional audience? Joey.
Thank you for your presentation. So I wonder if in the film, you can just see, okay, what's the current situation in 2022 or 2025, and what's the future in the 20 years later? So what's the transaction? Do you make some film for the transaction of these years for transportation?
But we didn't get to see the end, but there's just a little vignette of today, and then so you can directly compare to where the possibilities of different forms. We are looking at doing different versions of this. So once we get the results and work with Professor Ma and can quantify, we can use this almost as an instructional and overlay on it, or a second version of the film where you actually have metrics that quantify the benefits of this or that comparative. That's all in a future budget, but we tend to do.
Are you considering using some like simulation or digital twin to form these transactions to see what's the current situation and what's the future, and you can measure the years by years?
We can use digital twins to evaluate things that we have a digital twin of. There's not as many future digital twins available. The funding is there, and that's the size of the project. We create a digital twin of essentially just this movie we created. We could do a bunch of those evaluations. We would be happy to. We'd probably be partnering with it because that's not our specialty, but we'd be happy to support that being part of the project.
I am captivated by the final picture of your son, not being very interested in YouTube. How much do you include their perspective of the future in your design and the kind of future you envision for them?
So this we kind of created, so we had an MVP, kind of just a way to share and talk. On a future project, if we redid kids mobility, we would be actively interacting with kids and what they need and expect, and other influencers, obviously what the parents are going to be allowing, and we would be doing lots of firsthand research with them to help inform what we actually share, and would be appropriate in this case for 45, will be appropriate for 20 years out. Does that answer your question?
I was just curious, so for most projects, since you kind of present a vision for the future, do you usually use some like kind of the same time horizon into the future, like 20 years, or is it different, or like how do you determine?
So there won't be a standard time frame, but like with the Hillsdale, the Michigan project, there would probably be a 5 to 10 year window, kind of what can be realized immediately, and then a 20-year out, a 50-year out. There'd probably be 3 horizons that we would do for a project like that. We're partnering with somebody; they'll do first one, we'll do the second, third time horizon for where it could go. Does that answer?
That makes sense. Yes, thank you.
a big part of the work that you will be doing is involved with, I guess, like design and video production. How engineering, our research center, is going to interact with that part? Like we provide, if it could happen, like for example, we provide some input, you evaluate them and turn them into a video, or how is like that interaction between engineers and something like that?
So that upfront kind of, I guess, the research phase would be, like for instance, using you guys would be a lot of interaction research, trying to understand the technical, the policy, the evolution of the actual system. And then from that, so that it's grounded in other smart people trying to understand what the future is going to be, we will then convert that into a story that inspires change. But we don't want to be a production house. We could do that easily. But we don't want to just be a production house for movie films. We want to work closely with people like you to make sure that that film is actually, there's another group I have mentioned called the World Building Institute. They're part of USC Film School. And whenever a movie comes along about the future, Minority Report was one of them, they go, we're Tom Cruise, we're a bunch of this, whatever. But we need to ground it in a proper 2050 world. So this group would specialize in defining what lifestyle and business and technology is going to be in 2050. And then they can, the people that write the movies can actually write the right movie into the right time frame. We're working with them on another project as well, where they provide their expertise and then we create the inspiring story.
So I'll raise my hand for a question that came online from Ali at North Carolina A&T. So in this idea of creating future visions and all that, sort of what's your thoughts on the difference between visions for urban and particularly rural mobility? Because, you know, a large focus of the CR2, C2 is rural and you know, sort of smaller town, the kind of the Southeast regional context. So just some thoughts on the future of urban versus rural, particularly rural.
I would say there's probably more overlapping similar needs than complete differences, but like in the dense urban environment, LA, you know, they have limited existing, they're working with LA Metro, they're trying to figure out how to connect to other transportation systems or make them more utilized or have a small subsystem to get to the larger distance system. And they have a lot of people crowded on top of each other. It's a denser environment. But in a rural environment, they also need to get to these other longer range. So they have a similar kind of challenge. It's maybe less built up, maybe you have less stuff in the way. Like in the middle of LA or any other, you have all the stuff that's already there. You have to not necessarily tear it down, but you have to work around it. And possibly in rural environments, there's less built infrastructure that you might have more freedom to bring stuff in. Maybe you have less money because of the nature of the density of the people in the existing industry and whatever, but we haven't done all the research on all those, so I will admit, I'm no instant expert, but we will work with the right people. And we will definitely work with the local community so that they feel part of whatever change is offered or envisioned, that they feel like they helped create it. Right, so they're going to be more accepting of it, and then hopefully there's greater chance of it.
Absolutely, and that is the vision. Pravina.
So when you're trying to convert your ideas into these videos, how much of thought that goes into these videos? Because I was just looking at that video talking about the pods where kids get transported from home to school, and I still see house has garage there. I assume when you're talking about 2045 and not just kids, others are going to be traveling in shared autonomous vehicles as well.
That is a very good point. We've had that pointed out before. Part of that is our limited budget. And so we focused on the transportation system, the built environment. We made some superficial changes to make it look more like the core house structure, also the core house density, the number of housing units in a space kind of was the same, but we would want to fix all that. It's just a matter of how much money we had for our first film, but that is true.
So Stephen asked you like difference between rural mobility versus urban mobility. But on the same lines,
mobility is kind of very diverse, not only in rural and urban area, but it also very strong, person to person or household to household or from region to region, low income versus high income, disabled versus, so medical conditions, those stuff. So have you do you have like kind of priority list? Like, is there, what type of mobility needs are you going to start addressing first? And might be, it can be employment, healthcare, education, or it can be something else as well. But do you have any priority list?
Well, we're going to try to start, it's somewhere in my, one community at a time. So it'll reflect that particular community's needs so that we can show some demonstrated success, positive impact with that community. The same every time. But I would say, access to jobs, either interviewing or doing the job, healthcare for sure, education for sure, but maybe you don't always have to go as far, but education. Although the Hillsdale one also has a veterans thing into it, but definitely what you said, education, healthcare, and job access, job interviewing, whatever, so that you can get, more income and help more families.
All right, listen, everybody here, that's great. Thank you. Everybody online, thank you for attending. I think there's maybe a couple of questions that have lingered out there. One interesting thing on protecting the ethical issues around the storytelling and people stuff. So anybody who still has questions, anybody who has an interest or in this type of work, or somebody who has a story to tell, Dave's email is still on the screen. You can also contact me. But certainly the folks in
can I say one thing? For that film, since unfortunately it didn't go through, that film is on our website also. Just mobilityfutures.org. It has the whole film. You can watch it there.
Okay, excellent. Again, thanks everybody online for attending. I looked online, looks like we had good attendance. Always good to have these CR2 seminars. Thanks everybody. Stay tuned for next month. We'll have a couple of CR2C2 researchers presenting their work as they're wrapping up some things under MRI1, Major Research Initiative 1. So stay tuned for that, third Thursday of October. Thanks everyone, and everybody give Dave a hand. Thanks, Ali and Christina.
Thank you. It was a great talk. Thank you.